Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Scoreboard. They said it couldn't be done, but it turns out that pretty much exactly what we thought would happen has happened in this tournament. As the pitches have got a little bit older and the season's gone on a little bit, they've just become a little bit more bowler friendly. And the bizarre attacking nature of the early part of the IPL is now just dissipating a little bit. It's now just settling down, and we're getting some low-scoring classics. Was this a low-scoring classic? No, but it hinted at low. It was low-scoring, and it could have been a classic. Unfortunately, Tim David couldn't quite get us to the end of that chase. But again, another low-scoring game, another really, really interesting one all the way through. What are the main talking points here? It's probably the fact that Kolkata's batting lineup did look a little bit flammable, but at the same stage, when did Ramandeep Singh come out to bat? Was it number 9? I mean, it was low, right? It just tells you how ridiculous it is. You see a collapse now, and you think to yourself, well, they're collapsing, so they should be bowled out for this. And you forget that there's a whole nother batter, right? So what is that? 15% more batters, if you want to think about it from that perspective. Maybe it's 12%. It really depends on how you look at it. But the point being, suddenly you find yourself in a position where it's like, well, they could just go on. And they did. Venki, Venki's an incredible player. We talked about him recently on the video about Sai Sudarshan, which not enough people watch. You should go watch that. It's a really good video. But on that, we said that Sai Sudarshan might be the most consistent player and Venki might be the least consistent player. And you saw that again today. He's made a lot of single-figure scores, and a couple of 15s maybe as well. But he's also now got 2 50s and a 35 and a 40, I think, in this tournament. He basically just goes. He's either out early on or he's going to make a low score. He's an absolute dream if you're betting on unders and then overs. From a gambling point of view. But that was a really, really important innings. And I just want to talk. We've seen a lot. We saw the other day Chennai use their impact sub terribly. What was his name? Rizvi, when he came in? Like, what were they doing? They still had batters left. They had multiple options available to themselves. And they made that a lot harder because they made a mistake with the impact sub. Kolkata today, I thought, played the impact sub absolutely perfectly. They were, when does Manish Pandey come in? They were, 5 down when Manish Pandey comes in? And they're like, great. This is a tough wicket to play spin. We need to just knock the ball around for a little while, and then hopefully we can go bang at the end. And Manish Pandey coming in to be able to do that was absolutely perfect from that perspective. So he got them up. Him and Venki got all the runs, and it wasn't a lot, right? 169. They were bowled out as well, which is something. Jasper Bumrah again was just absolutely magnificent. We'll get to the economy rates later, but absolutely magnificent. And then in the chase, Kolkata looked absolutely out of the game when they were bowling seam, and they looked dead set favourites when they were bowling spin. There was no in between, right? Remarkable effort. From the moment that Varun Chakravarti came on, in fact, even before he came on for some of us, I was waiting for him to come on to put my money on Kolkata, because I just thought once the spinners got on their surface, it was going to make a huge amount of difference. The two of those together with him and Narayan completely brought them back into it. But it is worth mentioning Andre Russell, who looked like at one stage he'd snapped his ankle as well, and did manage to bowl out of his overs, but they needed that one extra spinner. Mitchell Stark's figures have ended up looking pretty good, but remember, he cleaned up the tail. But that is like a big chunk of why you do. So if you think about Mitchell Stark, he takes a wicket at the top. and he cleans up the tail. That's exactly what you want from him, even if you're a Kolkata fan and you're still sitting there going, he's going to go for 25 runs in one of these overs and lose. And a special shout out to Suryakumar Yadav, who I think of everyone on this wicket probably he just looked like it wasn't bothering him at all. And as I said before, Tim David almost got them over the line. But apparently you don't need robots bowling. You don't need bowling machines, but actual human bowlers still work. And the IPL is alive with the sound of low scores. All right, let's get to this scoreboard part of the show. He says confidently before pressing the wrong button. This is KKR's runs per over by phases today. That first 10 overs, it was absolutely chaos because it was quite clear that what they needed to do at that stage was just bat sensibly for a couple of minutes, let the wicket come to them rather than keep pushing so hard. And they were just like, Shreyas Iyer just came out and I was like, oh my God, he's trying to hit a 4 every ball. Like if Shreyas Iyer is trying to do that, it just shows you how much the mentality of this IPL has changed batters' minds, where they just think it doesn't matter now. We're just going to keep going. But because of that, they lost a lot of wickets, but still scored at 10 runs and over. It's absolutely remarkable to me. From over 7 to 11, they went at 7. They went at 7. This is fine. Like it felt lower than this because of this IPL. But watching it live, I was thinking to myself, this was absolutely, it's very rare. I think I would say that you should have a rebuild. This is a perfect example. That wicket just needed a little bit longer to have a look at. And also you knew that if you got through a couple of overs of the Mumbai spinners, outside of Bumrah, there wasn't a lot of plus bowling that you were going to have to go up against. They got it back to 8 at this stage. And probably the reason that they weren't, I don't want to say favourites, but the game wasn't more evenly balanced, was just because they just couldn't kick this on, right? Was it Andre Russell? That run out was probably, just caused them a little bit of an issue. And then Ramandeep faced 4 balls for 2. Not having to go at either of those guys. These things happen. But one of them coming off and hitting 2 or 3 sixes is probably the difference, as, especially once Venki went out. Although, no, actually, Venki was at the end, wasn't he? Especially, once they both went out and there was the tail, and then Venki had the bat with at the death, face all the balls on his own. Was it Aurora? Yeah, Aurora batted 9 minutes without a ball. I'm all for that sort of stuff. This is Venkatesh Iyer's true stats in the IPL play season. So you can see that a lot of people were very excited about him when he started. If you go back and have a look at that season when I was covering him, I was a lot more cautious on him, only because I think as I said before, he's very inconsistent. And within that, there is sometimes his early part of his innings can be a little bit lucky. And then later on, there's a little bit of slogging to his game. And he's not as good a hitter as some other players because he loses his shape a little bit at times and all this sort of stuff. So that one good season, I thought really, obviously, it's a true average error plus 10 and a true strike rate of plus 11. So that's absolutely fantastic. But since then, you can see that there has been a little bit of a regression back here. So he's in the negative on both on 2013 and in 2012, again in the negative on both. This innings should knock him back up. I think he probably should be, I'm trying to think of where I would want him. True average, a true strike rate, I kind of want him to push a little bit harder. But if he was somewhere around like a par player in this kind of a lineup, I actually think that could be really handy for them. But, having, that minus true strike rate and that minus true average, I don't think works particularly well for him. It doesn't work well for anyone. But what I mean is, I don't think he has to be elite in both. He either needs to be par in both, or he needs to be elite in one. But par in both, I think in this kind of lineup is probably better, right? Because they don't need another. Really, if you could swap Venki, I'm trying to think of who you would swap him for. But if you could swap Venki for Sai Sudarshan, actually would be a really good one. In this kind of a lineup, I actually think it would be perfect. I don't think they need another high volatility batter because they have so much batting in every team that they play, in every lineup that they have, because especially while Narayan's making runs. when Narayan doesn't make runs, you probably want him more to, to bat in a slightly different way. This is his strike rate by bowling type today. Well, it would be if I left it on the screen. A strike rate of 150 against pace, 137 against finger spin, and you can see he dropped off a little bit against wrist spin. He profiles to me as a player who is very good against right-arm pace bowling. A lot of late blooming players, quite often what they work out late in their career is like one or two sort of key skills, and that's what he was. And quite often it is just hitting right-arm seam, because that is the one that is the most profitable. That was weird. Manish Pandey strike rate by bowling type today. This is why I really liked him coming in. He put pressure, but am I sitting on my... Have I got a cat in here? The ghost of a cat. All right, we'll try that again. This is what I really liked about him today, because he did put some pressure, right back on. He was out there to consolidate, but he was also out there as a spin specialist, and he played that really, really well. Interesting that he didn't get many away from the spinners. Obviously, some of these are just small sample size as well. He was 4 off 5 off the leggy. So, not a massive amount, and obviously didn't face as much of the off spin. But regardless of that, you could see the difference in intent, I think, when you have a look at something like this. And this is Mumbai's bowlers today, or their economy rates today. So we saw in the first 10 overs, them going at 9 and then pulling it back to 4.2 in overs 7 to 11. Absolutely incredible. It must have been, I'm trying to work out if that is, because they were 7 runs and over, whether there was a lot of leg buys in that period or buys. I can't remember what the situation was there. But you can certainly see how differently I'm confused, because this looks different than the one at the front, because that was the one at the front. Yeah, so I'm a little bit confused at why it's so different than the other one. I'm just going to move on from that in case it's wrong. If I got the wrong... I'm really confused if something's gone. Let's just take a quick break, because I'm afraid I've pressed the wrong button here or caused an issue. I will be back in a couple of minutes, but this is the scoreboard. Remember that cricket is a funny game. 100 years before we protected our heads, players looked after their groin. So don't be as stupid as old cricketers. Protect your computer. NordVPN is the protection I use when facing cyber short balls, or when the rights issue tried to dismiss me. NordVPN will help you get through the straight bat of any GEO blocks, so you can watch all the cricket you want. If you need your pitch changed, well, NordVPN can doctor any surface to a new location, so your IP address is set up for you to win. Want to buy an associate cricket shirt from a place that won't ship to your country? Select NordVPN. Want to watch a game on a free stream in another hemisphere? Give NordVPN the ball. Or if you just want to watch a clip on social media that the cricket board won't allow, promote NordVPN to pinch it. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects their nether region with NordVPN today. All right, welcome back. Sorry about that. Just some technical problems. As you can see, Canvas being a bit glitchy and weird as well, which doesn't help. So even when we make the changes, they're not always going through. But this is Mumbai's runs per over by phases today. So you could see they started cautiously. A lot of this was the fact that Chakravarti and Sunil Narayan, they bowled those, 5th and 6th overs. Which was very, very, which was huge. I actually thought Narayan would come on for the 5th, because I thought they desperately needed that. But they brought Chakravarti on, which, all things considered, I suppose he's more of a wicket-taking threat. So, although maybe not in this series, but in general, he's more of a wicket-taking threat. So I don't have an issue with that. And of course, he got a wicket straight away. Sunil Narayan got one not long after that, and then suddenly they're in all sorts of trouble. You can see they went even slower in overs 7 to 11 as they were trying to recover. But a lot of this is just they were going up against the better spinners. Very early on, a friend of mine was watching this game, Rob Barron from Cricket 8, and he sent me a message saying that he thought that even in the first innings that Naram would be almost unplayable on the surface. And that was a very, very good call. And this is the period where that really bore out. But weirdly enough, both sets of spinners were better when the ball was a little harder and newer. And afterwards, it was almost like it didn't bounce weirdly or sit in the wicket as much. I'm not sure. Anyway, really good effort. This is the Sky period. And, maybe a little bit of Tim David is in there as well. But I thought Sky's batting was incredible. That big over off, was it Aurora? Yeah, the big over off Aurora, which almost brought them back into the game from absolutely nowhere. Just brilliant cricket. But unfortunately, it fizzled out a little bit at the end. But, not to blame Sky or Tim David, because I think they both gave them a really good chance. The damage was done early on, right? Oh, okay, Camphor. This is Mumbai bowlers' economy rates. You could see here that Tushara went for runs today. I thought this was a wicket you really wanted to bowl at the stumps, and he was convinced that that was not the case, and he wanted to bowl wide. Again, with Kotsi, I think I would have bowled more at the stumps. Pandya's bowling still a bit of an issue, less so for Mumbai, but more for India. And Deer came on for an over today. But Pierce Chawla did really well. It would have been interesting if Kolkata had a wrist spinner as well, just to see if it was just the kind of wicket that even helped wrist spin a little bit more than finger spin. But I was, the season's over and it doesn't matter. But it's nice to see one of the old guys still hanging on. I hope he hangs on for a couple more years. With the impact sub, there's no reason why he shouldn't. But this was magnificent, wasn't it? I think, was it the second over? He got hit for a 4 early on. And, straight away you just thought to yourself, this is absolutely, just a different... It was a different level. And when Andre Russell came out, I still thought, even if he bowls to Bumrah today, I'm backing Bumrah. That's how well he's bowling at the moment. Just a completely different species of bowler to everyone else in this tournament. And this is Mumbai's batters today, minimum 10 balls faced. I talked about it before, but that, Sky innings, I thought it was sensational. The way he attacked from a position of strength on a wicket where even some of Venki, I thought Venki batted really, really well. But even some of Venki's shots, I thought they were a little bit, I just need to put some pressure back on the bowlers here. Whereas Sky looked absolutely best. I don't know who they gave man of the match to. Oh, it was Venki. But Sky's was actually the better innings, even if, they seem to never give man of the match to someone who loses. But Venki made more runs anyway. So I can understand that. Oh, actually, let me just go back here. Just one other thing I wanted to point out here was just how hard it was to score for so many of the players out there today. It really was a tricky wicket, and I hope that came across to everyone who's watching it. And this is him by phase. So he had to go in the power play, still scoring 140. Slowed down when he had to, and those guys were bowling really, really good at that point. So, no issues there. And then this is the part of the game he was getting it together and was about to win it. This is Varun Chakravarti's true stats by season. This doesn't include today. It takes us a little while to update the true stats. This had been a pretty poor season, I think, up until now. You can see 2020 and 2023 are exceptional. 2021, I've got no problem with this kind of a season. It's, again, he's 1 run and over better than a normal bowler in 2021. And yeah, he wasn't taking as many wickets. And then 2022, this year, I'll get down to 2022 in a moment. And then this year, he was, 0.6 runs and over better than normal on the true economy, which I haven't always felt. So I was quite interested in that. And he's not taking wickets. But this is the pattern I just want to show here. This will get better after today. So he might end up more over here. But you've got these years where the ball comes out of his fingers correctly. You've got the years where he has to think it through and work it out a little bit more. And then you've got the years where he doesn't work. I think the way he bowls, because he doesn't put as many revolutions on the ball, because he doesn't, He doesn't get dip or drop or anything else. It's literally, he has to beat you off the surface. He has to get spinning wickets that spin quickly more often than not, or that hold up in a weird way like today, in order to be successful. Normal wrist spinners or finger spinners have other, because they're putting so much more work on the ball, they have other ways of beating you. So he's a little bit more like, a Harshal Patel or Dwayne Bravo. And there are going to be years that are going to be really, really good, and there are going to be years that aren't. This is the bowlers' economy rates today. So the two spinners were fantastic. I think I said in our group chat at one stage, if we had another, I don't think I'm on KKR's team. KKR had another spinner, even a part-time spinner, I think they would have won that really easily. But I thought Russell bowled fantastic as well. Aurora, that second or third over was absolutely heinous. But Stark, we talked about him a little bit in the intro, so I just wanted to bring it back a little bit. What's the best way of putting this? With Stark, you really want one early wicket, even if it goes at 10 runs and over. And then you want one over between the 12th and the 15th, where he looks like a threat. And you hope he gets a wicket occasionally. And then you're hoping that you get to the number 6, number 7, number 8, and he's just a little bit too quick for them. He didn't quite do that today, but I thought this was going to be a wicket that would suit him a little bit more. Another thing with Stark, which him and Bumrah worked out on this wicket, which does show you that experience in Nous is helpful, is that he was like, I'm going to bowl a little bit more at the stumps than other people are. All these little things, do add up. But there was a part today where I thought this might be Stark's last game for KKR. It'd be really interesting to see where they go and whether he stays in their plans, because I don't think you can kind of rely on this combination. I know they've got Harshad as well, which obviously didn't work today, but they're really taking a lot of punts with their seam bowling. Andre Russell's bowling is always a punt, right? We know he'll probably get more wickets than usual, but go for a lot more runs. If Stark does the same, if Stark starts taking 2-3 wickets a game, and Russell can take 1 or 2 wickets a game, these two become even more dangerous, and this suddenly looks like a genuine team who can win the championship, right? But at the moment, it doesn't feel that way, but let's see how they go. That's it for the scoreboard for today. So now, if you want to ask any questions, we'll have a quick break, and we'll be back in a moment with more of the scoreboard with Jared Kimber. That's me. Sometimes you just need to take the slips out and bowl defensively. And you also need to be careful with your computer's defense as well. If you need a VPN, go Nord. NordVPN.com/Kimber to get a 2-year contract with a discount, plus 4 extra months and gifts in some markets. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. So put in some dot balls and turn them into maidens via NordVPN.com/Kimber. Welcome back to what's this show called? The Scoreboard. We've got a bunch of questions here. I'll go through a couple of them. It feels like you're all low key today, which is good. It's good that people aren't getting too fired up. But let's have a look at a few of the questions. We've got a couple of super chats here as well. And then we can go off. We'll be back again with the scoreboard tomorrow, and we'll be back with the scoreboard on Sunday as well. Era Guy says, how the hell is Bumrah so... No, wrong one. Yeah, no, we'll start with that one. How the hell is Bumrah so accurate? He's rivaling spinners now with his accuracy, and then Yorker and the bouncer, then swinging it foolish length. You probably have to make another video. I think we've made it. He is, I think... not as accurate as a spinner, but on that kind of level. There's a couple of Bumrah videos where we've talked about that sort of stuff before. He really is a combination of rubber ball, white ball, red ball, spinner, like in a few different ways. We have had seamers as accurate as him before, to be fair. Vernon Philander comes to mind. Stuart Clark is probably another one. Muhammad Abbas, Muhammad Asif, Jimmy Anderson. The difference is he's doing it in a more extreme way, because it is, his bouncer is so accurate, his Yorkers are so accurate, and it's hard to change your length. It's easier for bowlers to be deadly accurate when they're aiming at the same spot over and over again. It really is remarkable. He really is just a different tier to everyone else when it comes to T20 bowling. A, B, C, D. Nitish Kumar's limited overs and test ceiling higher than Pandya. Oh, that's a really interesting one. I'm a big fan. I think I backed him to be man of the match yesterday. So yeah, I'm a very, very big fan. I don't think his ceiling is higher than Pandya, no. I wonder if the way he plays, I worry about his bowling a little bit. So Pandya's ceiling is huge because Pandya can bat anywhere from 5 to 7 and strike at a plus strike rate, and then can also bat at number 4 if you need an anchor as well. And then his bowling is, when fit, and that's always a big question, but when fit, is a very, very he's capable of taking wickets. We know he's going to go for runs, right? In the same way that Andre Russell is, but we know he's capable of taking wickets. So he's got that sort of Andre Russell-like bowling. Nitish Kumar, because he's young, I have to see a lot more. At the moment, I see him as a more steady player than Hardik Pandya. Someone who is able to provide regular runs. And with his bowling, I need to see that develop a little bit more. But if he's going to be a bowler, based on what I've seen him at the moment, I wonder if he's not going to be more of a defensive bowler, right? So I'm trying to think if there's another all-rounder around that is a little bit more like him in that kind of way. Just having a look at his bowling record in all cricket. 17 matches, list A, 42. Yeah, so he struggled to take wickets and he's going for runs in T20, but he hasn't bowled all that much at the moment, has he? Yeah, it's a weird one. I suppose if you look at the dream scenario of him, he could be, I don't think he's ever going to be as explosive with the bat. And if that's where T20 is going, I worry about that a little bit more. But, Hardik Pandya hasn't fully actualized himself at all times. He's become an anchor and his bowling sort of does yo-yo and go up and down. The ability to bowl with a little bit more pace. But so I almost wonder if Nitish Kumar could be a much more consistent version with a slightly lower ceiling. And then it's about how you balance him in. So I suppose you're talking about then perhaps maybe more of a Sam Curran than a Hardik Pandya. And maybe that's the way that he goes. So for a limited overs white ball player, I think the most important thing is what roles you can do at an elite level. So Andre Russell has 2 elite skills: hitting sixes and then taking wickets, right? Everything else can be worked around him, right? And take that to Ben Stokes, who is a better cricketer in all formats than as an all-format cricketer than Andre Russell. But he doesn't have an elite skill at T20 cricket, right? So go back to Hardik Pandya. Hardik Pandya at his best is probably just sub-elite with taking wickets, but for a fifth bowler, probably, again, near that elite level. And then when he was the number 5, number 6, who could smack sixes and get you average of 25, 30, he was an elite player in those positions. At the moment, I don't see where Nitish Kumar's eliteness is. And maybe Cameron Green is the best one for that sort of thing. When you look at Cameron Green, you go, yeah, all the skills are there. How does it fit into T20 cricket? That would be my question for Nitish Kumar. But I'm not worried about his talent. And if he's doing this at a young age, I think he's an incredible player. And I also believe he should have been man of the match. Sand says, Mumbai missed by not going for the kill using Bumrah early. It was interesting because they brought Hardik on and Hardik got a wicket, Sam. So they would probably see that as a success. But I don't understand the thinking behind it. I just don't understand why you wouldn't use him in overs 17 and 19 in that situation when wickets really could have made a huge difference. You could have used him even earlier, which I think is also what you're suggesting. I don't have a problem with it being held to the 17th over because KKR hadn't got away from them. And if he comes on in that over and has a similar kind of impact, that's probably enough, to get them to a chaseable total. The truth is that those first 4 overs, Mumbai had to be none for 40. And then they had to be in a position where they knocked the spinners around at a run a ball. If I was the analyst, this is what I would have said. And it would have been controversial, but I always said, if you can get to none for 40, and then off the next 8 overs of the spinners, if you can hit 50 runs off those 8 overs, right? We are then 50 off the first, we're 90 off the first, 12 overs. And that allows us the rest of the overs from the seamers to get the, whatever it is, 60, 70, 80 runs left, which I think is a more than reasonable ask. I think they wanted to break the chase early, but in attacking the spinners, the shot that was played... Now, who was the batter? Oh, Namandir. Like, his shot looked like someone who wasn't understanding that this was that kind of a wicket. And then Rohit Sharma going after Narayan not long after that. I've got no problem with them putting pressure on, but I think they should have put pressure on by... There were plenty of twos out on that ground. And also play good shots. And I think they could have got to a point where later on they might have been able to score better off those spinners as well. So your Bumrah comment is right, but it wasn't that KKR got too many runs. It really was that the combination of the pitch and those spinners was going to be tricky, and you had to bat in a very particular way. Hund said, did anyone actually watch the match or just read the scorecard? No one watches the matches. They just come to the scoreboard. Oh, I'm not sure. Rahul says, Venki was striking at 128 in his first year. I don't get the hype around him. I think there's an emotional thing with Venki, and I think this is a really cool thing that I hope keeps going, which is we don't get a lot of late blooming cricketers. The way that cricket is set up, you kind of have to be in it or not make it. So Richard Gleeson and Venki and Jake Lintott and Dirk Nannes, those sorts of guys, I think they're really cool because they've managed to break into a system that isn't really all that set up for it, right? Like if you think of, if you think of football or basketball, right? So if you're a footballer and you don't make it when you're young and you can keep going off and playing semi-professional football or even amateur football, and then you have a way of building yourself back up the system. That's how football is working. And you look at basketball, you don't make it in the NBA, okay, well, you go off and you can play in Asia, you can play in Australia. If you're good enough, you can play in a lower European league, and then you have a chance of building yourself back up again. A lot of these sports have a really good support structure, and we've never had that in cricket. We don't have that many top tier professional cricketers. And so it's very easy to just disappear. So when someone like Venki comes in, people get excited, especially because he's kind of more like sort of people who would be on the scoreboard, right? I think he's educated, right? He's like, a normal dude, not an athlete. So I think there's a lot there to like about someone like him. And he's boom or bust. And I think, Rahul, if you go back, when we did the Sai Siddharthan piece, we talked about this very specifically, which is depending on which innings of Venki you have seen, you will think he's absolutely great or absolutely terrible. Where depending on it doesn't matter which innings you've seen Sai Siddharthan, you'll have the exact same opinion of him because you've seen him play the same innings again and again. And so I think there are people who are very out on Venki and very in on Venki, just depending on which games they remember or which games they had the TV on for. Abdullah says, how safe is a low full toss to bowl? Vaibhav bowled one to Sky but didn't go for runs. That no ball. Is the danger of bowling a low full toss perhaps overstated unless you're bowling to ABD? No, low full toss gets absolutely hammered. I think their strike rate is somewhere, their runs per over is somewhere around 11 or 12. People I've tried this. I'm pretty sure Hawkeye has proved this right. There is a level of a low full toss because you can have a full toss that's like an inch higher than a Yorker. Well, at that stage, it's basically a Yorker, so it is a good one. But if you're talking from knee to ankle, they get absolutely hammered, and they can get hammered in a really safe way. So there's two shots that players love playing to them, especially when mid-off is up. They'll hit it between mid-off and extra cover. The other one is slashing it past short third. And then if you get it too straight, flicking it up over fine leg if fine leg's up. It's not a good ball. I know a lot of people... people say that, but you could say that about any particular ball, Abdullah, that you've seen. Like a length ball can sometimes be a good ball, but consistently, not a good ball. Nikon says, are these wickets better for defensive spinners since they might actually take wickets also? No, I think attacking spinners would. I think Chahal would have been pretty good on this wicket. I think Ashwin would have been pretty good on this wicket. So I don't think it was that. I think it wasn't spinning sideways, but it was hard to put your bat through the spinners, and it was holding up, and it wasn't always consistent. If you look at Chakravarti's last over, there was a couple that went through quite quick. And yet earlier, there was a couple that went through quite slow. So I think it was quite tough to play spinners on that kind of wicket. In general, you know, like if I was KKR, and this probably goes back to the Sunil Narine, Shakib days, if you have defensive spinners, you give them wickets that are even more ragging, right? It's almost the attacking spinners you can have the flat wickets for, because they should be okay on the flat wickets to occasionally rag out a victim. But for defensive spinners, you really do want wickets that help a little bit more, because then your opposition isn't going to score off them. And if they try, they're probably going to go out, which is the perfect combination. Aditya says, is Mustafiz's success at CSK related to the fact that Dhoni can speak Bangla? I didn't know Dhoni could speak Bangla, actually. I like that. No, because he was pretty good at Sunrisers, wasn't he, Aditya? I think there is an issue. We saw that when he was at Mumbai, when he couldn't speak with Mahela, and Mahela was very dismissive and was just like, look, English is the sport, the language of cricket. You have to learn it. You don't almost argue Hindi and Urdu are the languages of cricket, but I understand what Mahela was saying. You know, around the world, unfortunately, you do need a basic knowledge of English, and it's an unfair thing, but you know, we see that in lots of different sports that have various languages that are more important. You know, if you're a French speaker and you're playing kabaddi, I'm assuming that's not ideal. So it could have played a part. I just think that in that sort of period in the middle, he just hasn't been fully fit. And to be able to do what he does, to put his body through the kind of stress that it needs to be able to go through, he's at his absolute best when he can put maximum revolutions on the ball, and when he can flick his wrists in weird directions, and when his shoulder is in place. And that is not always the case for him. And so when it's not the case, he's going to have down years. And I think that's fine. That's just how it is. And we all have to accept that. But there's no doubt that communication and all these things work. There's a great movie about, I want to say, Dominican Republic baseballers. It's called Sugar. I think it's called Sugar. And it's now by people who made Marvel movies. But back when I used to follow them, it's a man and woman directing combination. And they made these incredible small indie films. One of them's about baseball. Still, no one ever talks about this movie. I saw it years ago at a film festival, and it blew my mind. And in it, there's a whole thing about the baseballers learning baseball English, not English. And it causes issues for these guys eventually, because they can't communicate with their coaches outside of saying fly ball, strike. They need to learn the entire language, right? To have proper conversations. And I've seen this before. When I've been an analyst where the coach is really trying to get through a message to someone and he can't quite get it through. And it's because it's nuanced and you can get through. I remember Brad Hodge saying to KS Ahmed, just bowl at the stumps. All I want from my leg spinners is to bowl at the stumps, right? Every ball, I want you to be hitting the stumps. That's a really easy thing. But when the season went on and there were different things that needed to be told to KS Ahmed, his English wasn't at that. This is when he was quite young. His English might have come on now, but his English just wasn't at that level. So, these things are really, really important. So thank you for the super chat. Thank you to everyone in the chat again today. We'll be back tomorrow for more games and more low-scoring games is what we're all looking for, right? I would have thought. I'm Jared Kimber. This is the Scoreboard. We'll be back tomorrow night and we'll be back on Sunday night. And on Sunday, we'll be at Cricket 8. So go over to Cricket 8's YouTube channel and give it a follow. And we'll be over there for live watch along all day with myself, Rob Barron, and Daniel Norcross. There is no point having talent around you if you don't use it correctly. Every captain knows this. And it is the same of the sport of cricket as when you are trying to win Raid Shadow Legends, which sounds like a new cricket league, if we're being honest. The difference is that instead of taking down arrogant openers or massive power hitters, you are fighting the Demon Lord and the Hydra. So if you want to use your leadership smarts from cricket in a new way, sign up to Raid Shadow Legends and participate in their Spring Hunt event where you can win some real life prizes such as gaming consoles, Amazon gift cards with a total value of $10,000 and a lot of other in-game prizes like legendary champions and more. All you've got to do is get Raid using the link in my description, enter in your Raid ID and join the competition at springhunt.polarium.com. But the heart of any game is its players, which is, again, a little bit like cricket. So Raid is launching its first ever community weeks. It is a super fun 14-day program giving away cool stuff as super hot legendary champion named Chronica Adelian. In case you don't know, she's the one who puts her enemies to sleep. To get her, all you've got to do is log in for 7 days between now and July the 8th. And the gifts, they don't end there. Use the link in my description or scan my QR code here on the screen and you will get a huge starter pack with an epic champion, Tyrell, and another starter pack after getting to level 25 that includes the epic Rector Druth. I like that name. Rector Druth should be a cricketer, right? And I'm already keeping stats on both of them in case I need to beat you, because you can actually play against me by finding my handle, The Good Jord. And after installing Raid via my link, make sure to use the promo code SPRINGHUNT24 to get silver and more. Who doesn't want silver? So click the link in the description and become the captain of your Raid Shadow League today. And let's take down those demon lords in the Death Overs.